Hello everybody. Y'all have to overlook me. I'm tired, I'm hurting, I'm sleepy. I done took my night medicine. It is 10:43 p.m. tonight. But I got one last video I wanted to make for today, and that is Saturday Shays and Ace storytelling. So I'm gonna try to do that now. It may not get put up till tomorrow because I have done put 3 videos up today, and I'm working on putting the 4th one up now. And it's a fun video. It's 6 clips for the whole video, and so I've still got to put it together. So it's probably going to take all night for that to go up, possibly even into the morning. So this one probably won't get put up, but I'll put it up tomorrow. But it will be for today. Okay. I've done, did random.org. I had, I think it was 8 things on my list, stories on my list. And it picked number, I think it was 5. And the name of it was Miss Hammock and Work Papers. So, Miss Hammock was one of my school teachers. She was my favoriteest school teacher. I was in, I think, about the 2nd grade. It could have been the 3rd grade. I'm not totally sure. We lived on the coast, and I just realized I'm getting 2 different schools and classes and teachers mixed up, but that's okay. I'm going to tell both because I had it wrote down for both. Okay. When I wrote it down, I was thinking it all went together, but it don't. So, okay. Let me tell the first one first, since it happened first before we moved. Alright. We lived in Seminary, Mississippi. Went to seminary school. If I've even got this one right, I hope I do. I still could have it wrong. But no, I think I've got it right. And so, when I was in school, and when I started school, I was 5 years old when I started school, and I did not start school in kindergarten. Back when I was little and in school, kindergarten was not mandatory, and all these other pre-K and, you know, putting all these little baby toddlers in school real early, that was not going on back then. And so, my birthday being on September the 21st, it actually came after school started, I believe. So I was 5 years old when I started 1st grade, but then not long after, turned 6 years old. Finished it out. I was 6 going into 2nd grade, not 7th. I was 6 going into 2nd grade, and then turned 7, and so on and so on. And I've always been not a smart person. I'm not going to say I'm dumb. I know I say that all the time. I'm kind of just basically joking and picking on that. Nobody's dumb because God makes us all, and He makes us all smart in our own little ways. But I have always been a simple-minded person, slow in the mind. My mama actually got me tested, and this was even after we moved to the coast that she got me tested. And they said that that my brain, my mind, was 2 years behind my age. So, I always, when I was in school, in public school, I always had to be I had my homeroom, normal class, and I even changed classes in public school to other, like one class was for one subject, we'd change to another. I remember doing that. And, but I always had a special education class that at some point during the day of the school day, I had to go into a special education class. So, in this special education class I went in, actually in the special education class it was 2 different ones because we changed from one to the other. It was kind of like I had a homeroom in the special education class also, but I would change to the other one for a little while, we would, and then we had to go back to that homeroom. But then we went back, I did, back to my normal homeroom class, and changed with those to some others. Is how I remember that working. I could be wrong, but it's how I remember it working. So now these teachers, I don't remember their names, but in special education, the homeroom class of that, it wasn't that one, it was the other one I changed into. When we would work in that room, or go to that room, and she would teach us, she was basically teaching us work papers. And I loved the little work papers. When I was little, I used to want to grow up and be a secretary. I also wanted to grow up to be a school teacher. I also wanted to grow up to be a librarian because I loved books and loved to read. Even though back then I still didn't know how to read and wasn't reading. I didn't really learn how to read good until I was 13 years old. So anyway, like I said, I've always been slow. So anyway, and I'm not ashamed of that. It's how God made me. I don't mind telling. I'm not putting myself down. I don't mind telling people that, So it's just it's just how God made me. So anyway, in the special education class, when we would change from the homeroom one of that into that second one, she had us to do work papers, and I love, it wasn't like the normal teaching and her up there and writing on the board, or us in our books actually, or whatever. It was loose leaf, single worksheets she would hand out to us and have us to work in. And I always loved those. But on the side, on the floor, and it was an old building, and it was plank floors, and the windows was like the old type windows. But on the floor, under the window, on the side of the chairs, she had a box sitting down there, and she had them full of these little work papers. And so after that class was over, when we got through working in that class and had to change back to the special education homeroom, that's what I'm going to call it, before we left out, she would always say, okay, everybody go line up and go to the box and pick you out as many work papers as you want to take home and have. And this was not like homework. We did not have to do this at home as homework and bring it back. This was just, she was just giving us free work papers, and we got to choose what we wanted and how many we wanted and take them home. And I loved that, because I would go home, and I would play secretary. And I would have me a desk, and that was my work papers, and I would really work them, but that was fun and play for me. So I loved that class, because I knew every time she was going to let us pick out our little work papers. And I just enjoyed those little work papers so much. So that's what I'd do. I'd take them home and play office with them, or school with them, and work on them. Oh man, I loved them. I still do. To be honest with you today, I wished I could come across a lot of old school work papers, just the loose leaf work papers like that. Oh, that would be fun. I would sit here and work on, even if it is just for young little kids. I love stuff like that. So anyway, I enjoyed that. So that's the work papers part. That's actually first. That was in seminary. Then when we moved down to the coast, Escatawba or Moss Point. The school was in Escatawba. We lived in Moss Point. Well, at first we lived in Escatawba, then we moved to Moss Point, but the school was in Escatawba. And the big town by that was Pascagoula, Mississippi, down on the coast, to let y'all know the area that I'm talking about. So at that school, my special education class was Miss Hammock. And she was my favoriteest teacher out of all of them, okay? All of the regular teachers, she was the only special education class teacher in class I had in that school there. If I'm not mistaken, if I've got it all right, and remembering it right. So Miss Hammock was so sweet. I loved her to death. And I felt like she probably didn't, but because I liked her so much and the way she treated me, I felt like that I was her favorite of all the kids, that I was her best friend, because she would work with us in class, and we would get through early. And so we were basically all sitting around this table, because in her class it wasn't seats, separate seats. It was a table with chairs around it, and everybody was at the table. And she sat at the end, and it was a low table, and it was kids' chairs. And she sat in a kid's chair at the end of this table with us. So after the class was over and we did our work, you know, the teaching important part and everything, and we would get through early, so we would just sit there and talk. And, you know, during class we weren't allowed to talk, of course. So at this time we would just sit there and talk, and waiting for the time to pass for us to leave that class to go to another one. So she would sit there and she would talk with us. She would let us talk. She would talk with us. She talked to us. She asked us questions. And that was, you know I said I felt like, but she was actually talking to all the kids. But I felt like, I guess she treated really each child the same. But I felt like, I guess because I liked her so much, she made me like her so much. Treated me in a way that I really liked her. And I claimed her as a friend instead of a teacher, you know. And so I felt like I was her special one. She, like I said, she probably treated everybody the same. But anyways, so she would talk to us. She would ask us questions about what we did at home, what we played, our friends, you know, everything, just our personal life. It wasn't school. We were just talking and chatting. I loved that. And we would talk about things, and so I remember one time, I don't really remember like if she asked us or if in talking like that, my diary, the subject of my diary, or maybe everybody, she might have asked everybody if they had a diary. But I was a little kid, but I had a little diary book that had the lock, and I would write in it. And so, like I said, I don't remember if she asked me to bring it to school one day and let her see it, but I did. One day I brought my diary to school just to show Miss Hammock, and I showed it to her, and I let her read some stuff out of it, you know. And she would read it out loud to the whole class. I didn't mind. I didn't care. And so we would just talk about that. My battery's fixing to die. But I loved her for that reason. That's all it was. I loved Miss Hammock. I got a picture of it, and I had her to sign it. And I wish I had it here now to show y'all, but I don't. Maybe one day I can show y'all. But I loved Miss Hammock, my favorite teacher. That's my story. Hope y'all enjoyed it. I'm out of here until next time. I'm done. I'm gone. Toodaloo.